And now we're going to go through the agenda. The first thing we're going to be talking about is a mobile home claims to overview of the estimate. Then we're going to be going into the NADA mobile home valuation. Then we're moving on to the mobile home additions, and then we'll finalize it by talking about creating and submitting the NFIP mobile home form. All right, again, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature that I just showed you, and we'll be able to address it during the presentation if it's concerning the presentation, or we'll leave it to the end. All right, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Danny. Hey, Danny, are you there?
I surely am.
All right, now Danny's going to go ahead and share his screen with us.
All right, everybody can see my screen? I hope so. Welcome. My name is Dan Sutliff, and I'm the trainer here at Simsol Software. And like Nicole said, that we are going to go over some mobile home training. Preparing the mobile home estimate is probably misunderstood by most flood adjusters, and it's the easiest. It is the easiest credential you can get, but it's the hardest thing to do, is in my experience. Just a lot of steps and procedures, and if you understand it, it's not bad at all. Simsol has the NFIP form that's the mobile home worksheet that we must fill out and preparing the claim. There are two different types of evaluation programs. One's going to be called the NADA Manufactured Housing Cost Evaluation Program, and remember that the NADA is for the shell only. So envision this like you're buying a car, and what the evaluation of a car would be is the same type of thing that what NADA is. And so they consider, the government, National Flood Insurance Program, considers a mobile home a licensed vehicle. So it's subject to that laws. And so in that evaluation, and that's why we have to use the NADA. Okay, and that's for the shell only itself, meaning that anything on the inside of the mobile home, that will be considered building on the shell only. Anything that's outside or it's not covered when you bought the mobile home, that's extra, that's going to be considered additions. Okay, so we have two different evaluations, and we want to set our estimate by that as well, just for easy clarification. So I'm going to show you that in a second. All right, but there's two different types of evaluations. One is NADA, and the other one is the Simsol additions for mobile home. So I'm going to go through that. All right. Remember that, just a little recap, that if you ever done mobile homes before, it's a requirement that we have to have over the top frame ties to do the ground anchors and acceptance of the manufacturer specifications. So we need to make sure that when you're out there in the field and you're doing a mobile home, take pictures of those strapping mechanisms. That is considered an additional item, because remember that it wasn't bought or purchased at the time of when you purchased the mobile home. So any of the strapping, shipping, and things of that nature, we are going to put that on the additions, and I'll go through that. Okay. All right. Another thing that you need to be aware of: does the mobile home is it going to be accepted for full replacement costs? There is a provision within the policy that will let you do that, but it has to be over. It has to be at least 16 foot wide, fully assembled, and it's got to be 600 square foot within its perimeter walls and fully assembled. So those two criteria, plus it has to be 80% insured to value, of course, along with the principal residence. Okay, so they have to be over their 80%. They have to live in the mobile home over 80% is the new ruling. So, and that's stated on the NFIP policy version 1A sub 1. So you can take a look at that. Another thing that you have to be aware of, and I'm going to go over this when we get into the form, is if the manufacturer or travel trailer is destroyed or damaged to such an extent that the adjuster cannot really economically feasible to repair, or that's his call, he would do a pre-damage condition for 1.5 times the amount. I'm going to go into that when we get into that form, but just be aware that if that's on your mind there. So if it is substantially damaged, then we might have to think about that 1.5 times of the actual cash value, which you can take. Okay. The big thing that I see with the mobile homes right now is that the NADA valuations are always lower than what today's contractors market price is. And remember, and this is crucial, is that you can never pay the shell over its evaluation. And that's where the adjusters have a little bit of problem trying to justify that of making their payment. So if you had, an amount for this mobile home that exceeds that valuation of the NADA, then we have to match that NADA. That's the magic number. So you can never pay over what the evaluation is. Okay, so just remember that. Another thing on the NADA is going to be that it's going to be ACV value. NADA represents ACV value, not RCV value. So when we do the form, then we'll have to put the RCV in, put the depreciation in that we have, and then the result will be the NAD amount. So let's get started on that, but that's a little quick overview. Okay, so basically we have an estimate here that I have a mobile home I set up. One thing that I did here is I called it a mobile home estimate, put a date in there, which will be good, and you want to tie the coverage to the estimate, which is already in there. Let me just give you a diagram of what I believe that what we're looking at right here. So I'm going to come down here to the diagram, go full height here. So we have, for example, off from the St. Johns River here in actually Cocoa Beach. So here we have a deck that's about 400 square foot. I have damaged steps. It's elevated by 2 foot. I've got an AC, exterior AC. So I just wanted to give you an overview. And as you can see, I've got 14 and 14. That's going to be over. That qualifies for full replacement cost if they meet the other conditions in which in this estimate they did. So basically, like I said before, to qualify for full replacement cost, it has to be over 14 and 600 square foot livable. So anyways, it does meet that. All right. The next thing, let me come up in here to the mobile home estimate here, is make sure that we have this selected. We're ready to go. Make sure you have the proper Simsol commercial residential. That is an older database that I'm using, but in the brand new database, it does have all the mobile home items that's located. So you could go in there and get your skirting. You don't have to switch databases. So just make sure you're using the complete Simsol registry of database, and it worked just fine. When we do a mobile home, we want to make sure that we follow what we have the main shell and the additions. Remember what I talked about on the main shell. That is anything that's purchased at the mobile home store or individual place. And then, for example, with that main shell, that's going to include the air handler. Okay, that's left in the mobile home when you buy it, but it does not include the heat pump. So you have to purchase that separately. Also, depending on the mobile home, they might not have the ducting that is supplied. So that could be either on prefabbed on the mobile home, or it could be added later after it's been delivered and is being set up. Okay, so you have to make that distinction because one, it could be put on the main shell or it could be put on the additions. And how we do that is that we have a main shell, which a group, that's what I used right there, is a group, and I called it main shell. Then I'm going to define my scope for the damaged room. In this case, in this scenario, I had about 2 foot of water, 2 to 2.5 foot of water. And with that, we had damage to piers, okay? So our foundation system was damaged, thus causing damage to our living room and our master bedroom. So I'm just going to come right up into the living room here. Going to click the list mode. And so as you can see here, it's just your standard stuff, flood loss cleanup, subfloor assembly that I had to take up, remove the carpeting and pad, drywall. And on the drywall, it's going to be 50% at 4 foot on this one because I have cracks on the drywall, but before 4 foot. Some of the on the other side of the wall on the kitchen which was damaged probably a little bit more. That's going to be 50%, 50% at 8. Okay, foot high. So you'll see that. So I've got the paint, the seal, the base molding. Master bedroom here. I have flood loss cleanup. You know, here we have the tape and floated. And then from here, I've got 4 on the drywall and floated. Here I have 8 foot at 75. So I need to make that 8 foot. And I can change that. That's one thing about Simsol is you do have the ability to change anything within the estimate. Okay. We also have paneling that was damaged. So I have that in there. Paint walls, seal walls, remove the base molding. So nothing special there. So basically I received a payment for doing the piers and that was in additions, okay? These are in the mobile home itself, so that's the main shell. Let's talk about the additions now for this claim. There are 2 different ones. I have exteriors plus crawl space. So when I do the crawl space, it's not part of the mobile home main shell. So when I click on the list, I can actually go flood loss cleanup, mildicide the floors, repair the concrete piers, which I received an estimate to do so. And that's when you're setting your foundation for mobile homes, that is considered an add-on. Okay, so setup, delivery, installation of the heat pump, okay, and any of the initial electrical to the mobile home, that's part of setup. So your electrical connection in your evaluation, you can add all that up in your evaluation, which I'm going to go over. But here is the actual damage to the additions for the crawl space. So I can have that in there. In this case, the insulated fiberglass ductwork was not part of the mobile home, so it had to be added when it was installed. So that's an addition part. It's very important that you make the distinction on that so that we can actually, when we print out our estimate, it'll break out main shell only versus additions. So that's a nice feature by using the grouping function that provides that. Okay, so once we do that, we can go to our total page and simply check our O&P if we do have it. We have over 10 pay, the overhead and profit, so I can address that. All right, and these are my exclusions, okay? So then I can click on done. Now, once we have our estimate completed, we want to concentrate on the evaluation, okay? On the evaluation, the first thing we want to tackle is going to be the NADA. So I'm going to bring that up right here, NADA page 1. So as I click on this, that's a bad scan though, but here we go. The NAD appraisal, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to know what year of the manufacturer. You're going to need to know what its trade name is, so it's a fleet line, what state it was issued in or made, and what region if available. Okay, but another thing that you're going to need to do, you're going to need to get the serial number off of that. So just remember to attain that. And the best experience that I have had is either going to be in front of the tongue or inside the closet where the air handler is. If you open that, that's the utility closet, and you should find some type of licensing tag right there. Or you can ask the insured, since it is a licensed vehicle, then you should have a tag on that. So they should have some documentation on it. But this is what the NAD appraisal guide will look like. Basically, you're going to go through a wizard, and you're going to pick the quality and what the length and the width is. Okay, and so that will show you in just a second to determine the price. So here we have the main floor area. It's a 28 by 64, and it's going to give me a standard value of $40,534.98. Please be aware that the insured paid $98,000 for this when they purchased the home new. Okay, so you can see what the big drop is on that. So if you had almost a total loss, you could only pay up to the total value with the add-ons within the mobile home. So let me just come down the line for you here on this. So my floor value is $40,534.98. That's my base value. You can do a state location adjustment factor, which by the time you put the zip code in, and you can actually increase it a little bit there. So it gives you 41,345.58. You're going to put the condition in there. I used a non-A on that. And then land lease community, that's non-applicable. What you're trying to do is get the total adjusted value for the home, which is $41,345.68, and then you want to do your additional features. That's not the addition that you're going to put on the addition side of your estimate. This is something totally different. These are like, for example, additions would be good quality tile, wallpaper, wall paneling, things of that nature. Your kitchen cabinets is high quality. So this is above the base. So I increased the price of $25,873, which is going to give me a total adjusted retail value. Remember that this is ACV only, $67,216.61. I can go into the other additionals, which is here on addition NADA2. Bring this up full price, and let me bring this up so you can see it. So now I can adjust the different components, cabinets, like I said before, countertops. And when you add all that up, that will be the additions part of the NADA. So now that I'm armed with the NADA ACV amount, I can then apply it to my evaluation of the program. So let me tell you how to do that. I'm clicking on Done, and I'm going to go up into the mobile home estimate. It's usually building estimate information window. I renamed it mobile home estimate, though, to make it a little bit easier for the examiner to see. So now that I have that, I'm going to go into the building info. Just like you've done many times before on single-family residences, it's the same way. I fill this out, mobile home, pier and beam, shingle. This is just for the cover page, and it just gives more information about the risk. What is important is that I'm going to go down to the description, and I'm going to actually say NADA, mobile home, put the square footage in, 1680. And the price per square foot is going to be determined by you from $92,000, which is what the insured paid for, and she told me she paid $92,000 for that, with 1680, which gives us a 5476. And Simsol takes this all the way down to 1902, but you can round that off to 5476 if you wish to do so. I took this down to 1902 because I'm trying to match up the RCV of 92,000, and that's what that is. So you do need to make that calculation, put your square footage in, put the cost per square foot, make sure it's $92,000 or what the insured paid for it or what you think the RCV is. The next thing is I need to take the 92,000 and I need to subtract the 67,2616 to determine what the depreciation is. It doesn't matter if it's recoverable or unrecoverable. Whatever the depreciation is, I put that in 24,078.39, so that Simsol will calculate the 67,216.61. This goes up to the NADA ACV value amount, so it's putting in the 67,000. Now, once we have that in there, we've got our evaluation completed. As you see, I didn't have to go to a wizard or anything. I just manually copied those figures from the NADA, okay, and also the price of what what the insured paid for. So the next thing that we need to do is determine, once we get this in here, we need to address the additions that are not included in the NADA. And that's where we can use the Simsol mobile home valuation to actually to determine that. Okay, and as you can see, the valuation is there. Now this is automatic. You don't have to plug any figures here, but we do have to create one, and that's what I'm going to do now, or I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to come up into the evaluation. It's going to ask for a current NADA, which I just placed that in. So now, as I go through this mobile home, as you can see, it's using the zip code, and this is important. If you do not have a zip code on the loss, you're not going to have a price. So just like the building estimate or single family estimates, you need to have the zip code addressed. So as I click on next, this is the component that I'm using. I'm using the building mobile home component to determine this price. Okay, so this is my base. What you can do is through the mobile home evaluation, you can address your roof's exterior walls. As you can see, it's 0 here, so you're going to have to do some modification on that. What I'm addressing here would be, for example, that deck that you saw, that 400 square foot deck. That's what I'm basing my exterior walls trim, interior floors, heating, kitchen. So as you can see, I've got that in there. I did have some on that, on the for example, that roof on the decking. So that's giving me my amount. What I'm now going to do is come up in here to the mobile home estimate again, selecting the building information window, and then selecting the valuation. And that's going to give me my 26,304.84. Now what this includes is it's going to include the deck, which is 400 square foot, plus it's going to do the HVAC unit, which will be the heat pump, not the air handler, but the heat pump, stairs, steps, skirting, okay, if it qualifies. If it's a pre-firm, this happens to be a pre-firm, not a post-firm elevated. So I can do the skirting, so that's all inclusive. So that's part of the price. And anything for setup and delivery. So for example, if all the trucking charges, put it on a flatbed, set the piers in, make sure that it's all set up. So that's all part of the add-ons in which you can add on to that. So with that, I now can pay for 67,216.61 and 26,304.85 as part of the mobile home ACV amount. So that'd be the limit that I can pay for in my estimate. I also cannot go over the RCV amount of 92,000 plus 26,304.84, which is additional. That's for the deck. Okay, So with that, I can click on done. And so I can then come up and then, since we've gone through the NADA, we've gone through the additionals, it's now time to actually go and do the form. So we're going to come down here to the mobile home worksheet. We're going to bring it up. Now, just remember that we have a form wizard here. So I'm going to click on the form wizard. And so you just fill this all out, what you see. And this is real important. Is land included? I'm going to say no. Furniture included? No. What you're going to do, this is, if it's repairable, this has to match your estimate, okay, for both totals. So it's $19,837.82. That's the amount of repairs, RCV. Okay, so you need to put that in there. Do we have a salvage value or a salver on it? Well, it's not much because it doesn't qualify for full replace. I mean, excuse me, it's not substantially damaged. Okay. The next one is asking how many axles that you have. We have 2. Foremost, this is all old hat for if you've done a lot of mobile homes. Are the wheels on the unit? It's no. That's really important that you address that because it might be a coverage issue. You're going to put your amount of insurance on there. Does it cover flood? No. So this is where we're going to obtain the RCV values and the additional options. You're going to look on the RCV value, which is $92,000. Where did that come from? That came in from the insured. She said she purchased $92,000. The depreciation amount, which we took in, remember, $26,783.39. So what you're doing is you're putting in the depreciation amount so that we get that ACV amount that was provided by the NADA. We will then go over to the additional options, which is $11,408.55. That includes the deck plus the heat pump, skirting, and setup and delivery charges. So you could see that we put that in. We also did the depreciation amount, for the various deck steps, and heat pump, $896.33. So that's what determines how we fill out the mobile home. So when we give those figures, we're going to click on finish, and that's all you need to do. But I do want to scroll down here and discuss the 1.5. Simsol will do the calculations if it's substantially damaged, and so that if it's the adjuster's call that it should be totaled, we can use the mobile home used book value of $65,216 as prescribed by policy. Multiply that by 1.5, which is $97,824.92. We're going to put the replacement cost value actions or options, which is $11,408. So the maximum amount of payable that we could use is $109,233.47. That's if it's a total loss. Okay, $109,233.47. We do it automatically in the form. So if you put the special loss calculation in of the NADA plus the additions, it's going to pay 1.5. Okay? So when we do that, you now have a mobile home. And if you follow those guidelines that we spelled out, doing mobile homes are actually pretty easy to do. Okay? The biggest thing that I see is we need to separate the main shell versus the add-ons, and then use your insured to value tools, either the NADA to provide the proper amount for the shell, and then the add-ons we can use our mobile home I2V module. So that works out real well. So we can do is we can print that. So you want to see what the mobile home worksheet looks like. We can also then hit the evaluation. We can also have to provide, and this is something that you need to be aware of, is that when you come over here and hit the scan documents, which I'm doing right here, I'm going to select all the NADA on that, plus any other items that you need to put in, like the handbook acceptance. I'm not going to print that all out, but we also will create the sign proof and final. But let's do this. Let me, I do have one available for that, so let me add that to it. Here we go. So I can come over here and add the proof of loss, final report, and the worksheet. There's my evaluation. Here's my, I can move that up. So I have the scanned documents, which are the NADA 1 through 6. Let's see, I need to put 4 over there as well, sorry. So as you can see with Simsol that I can actually change the order, which is nice. 5 is blank, so I'm not going to print that out. So once I've placed all the items that I want, so I've got the scanned documents, I've got the valuation. Once I have that, I'll put the diagram in. And then from that, I will now come up and do the mobile home estimate. And the mobile home estimate is going to have the main shell and add-ons broken out for us. But make sure your group area summary detail report is selected. So that's pretty good that you do there. And then we can actually go on and put our photo sheets in here if we need to. So when I print this out, this is what our mobile home is going to look like. I got my proof of loss. I've got my final report. I've got my manufactured mobile home worksheet. Remember that we do the 1.5 calculation. And there's my NADA with all the add-ons. Here's my building valuation. That's going to be for the add-ons. Here's my risk, which I have 24 wide by 60. Here we're right next to the river. Here we have damaged steps. Here, and then we have a front pair of steps up here in the front. Here's my mobile home estimate. Remember that it takes my total square foot. It's going to be the 11 something plus the 400 square foot added in there. Remember, this is what our multiple valuations, if it's applicable. Here's my recoverable and non-recoverable, and then this is my estimate. So here's my recap. Items excluded, and this is what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you that we can break out the main shell along with prorates if you use that grouping function. So here's my main shell only. So my main shell is 9,926.15 RCV, 1557.97, 836.18 for that. Then from there I go to my additions. So here's my total of 11,408.55. My contractor's overhead and profits included, plus my sales tax. So now that gives a grand total of 22,253.16 with the depreciation 2468.44 and 784.72, along with the other components. And that's what that mobile home looks like. Shows you how much water that we had. This little shed that they had. He had 2 different sheds, not covered under the National Flood Insurance Program. We have some actual piers that were damaged. These were leaning, so that's what caused. We had some cracks in the floor as well as from the wall. So anyways, remember the straps that you need to have. Remember that we have tie-down straps. You need to show that. And here's our piers going down the line. Okay. We didn't have a lot of water We only had about 2 foot here, but it was raging pretty good. It's right next to the river. So it did take out a couple of the supports, shims, support panel, supports for the columns. But as you can see, all the contractor did was shim this up. So we got a price on that. So basically, here's our little deck that's in the back. As you can see, we have to pay for the egress on there. I did not pay for 16 square foot of decking due to that. There's nothing wrong with the deck on that. So basically, we had a little bit of river right here, or canal, and this was raging, and that's how, and we replaced the skirting here. So that, and then we go into the living room and our justification for paying that. I'm not going to really go through that, but basically that's how we do a mobile home. If you have any questions, you can email us at dannys@simsol.com, or you can contact Nicole or Mathis from our sales department and marketing department, and we will get back to you on any question or anything that was not unclear for this. We do have a documentation. I have a throughout sheet, and I'm going to send that out to anybody. We can get the emails for everybody that's participating here today.
The first question here is, what if the mobile home is part of a larger building, no straps, but completely detached to an off-grade structure? What are the differences on the claim?
Okay, that's a very good question, Nicole. If you have an attached garage, that's an addition. See, when you go and buy that mobile home, there's no garage attached to it. So that garage, attached garage, can be part of the additions of the main estimate, or the additions part of the building estimate. If it's an APS, a pertinent private structures, like a detached garage, that's, you would just handle it like you normally would.
All right, and the next question we have here is, the strapping considered an additional cost for evaluation purposes?
Absolutely. The reason why I say that is that when you go to purchase the mobile home, there's no strapping on that. You didn't purchase strapping. So the strapping is an additional cost, and you want it that way because NADA strapping costs are very minimal. It's like a car. You know what happens when you look up your car in NADA, it's very low.
And one other question here is, can you discuss salvage and salver?
Yes, salvage means if you're taking salvage on this on this mobile home and it's substantially damaged, you want to put the salver and the salver name, or what your source is. So he's going to give you an amount how much he wants to use. So that's what you put in.
All right. If we have any questions, okay, here we have another question. When are you going to change the mobile home worksheet drawing? Need to have symbols for piers and straps.
That's an excellent question. We're looking into taking an overlay. So basically what's happening is, if we could use our drawing program to make an overlay on it and actually size that down and put an overlay on the mobile home, that's what we're thinking about doing. So it's not done as of yet, but it's something that we want to do.
All right. Do we have any more questions? What was the width of the full replacement, 14 feet or 16 feet?
As far as width?
Scott, can you go ahead? Can you expand on that in the question for us?
What I believe he's talking about is what the width is. Does he qualify for full replacement costs, in which he has to have at least 16 feet?
Yes, the width. Mm-hmm.
But you see, it does qualify because we're at 24 rather than which is over 16. And there's two modules, A and B, at 14. So it's full replacement cost.
And I have another question here. How do you locate the salver, and is the salver offer only needed by one salver?
The salver is actually dispatched or recommended by the carrier. They have a group of salvers that you can use. So I would check with your carrier. They can, or your adjustment or your IA firms will give you a salver to call.
Okay. All right. Do we have any more questions? All right. Doesn't seem like we have any. Oh, here we have one more question. If the mobile home has more than 600 square feet and does not meet the 14-foot width, does it not meet full replacement costs?
You're correct. It does not meet it. There's two different conditions within the policy. One is 14 foot wide, and the other, it has to be at least 600.
All right. And then, so the NADA is only used for the shell only, and not the additions like roof, decks, inside materials?
That is correct. Remember that the roof is part of the shell for the mobile home. So think of it as buying it off the lot like a car. But the roof that I'm talking about there would be for the deck. The roof for the deck, the outside deck, or or attached garage if there was one, that would be additions.
All right. All right, we're just going to wait. Oh, here we go. We have some more questions. How do you account for additional rooms added to a mobile home?
If it's additional rooms and it's not part of what you purchased, those are additions. Those have to go to the addition side. So if you made an addition to the actual mobile home, you added 2 bedrooms, those are not going to be on the NADA. You want to exclude that from the NADA and apply that evaluation to the add-ons, the additions.
And do you have written down the breakdown on how to complete the mobile home worksheet, RC and ACV, something someone could follow away for next time they do a mobile home file?
Yes. In this step-by-step document that we do have that you'll be receiving goes through that.
Okay, perfect. And any structure attached to the mobile home that becomes part of the evaluation?
Yes. I'm thinking that it's something like an attached garage that you're adding.
Okay.
I'm assuming, or an added room, or a deck, or something of that line. Remember that's part, you're attaching it, so it's going to be part of the main building, but it's going to be put into the addition section that we broke out.
The diagram at the bottom of the estimate asks for a diagram of the straps. Is that necessary?
I do. When you do a diagram of the property, I try to put where the straps are. It doesn't really say it, but it's a good idea to do it. But yes, I try to alleviate the questions. But remember that the most important thing is take a picture of those straps. Make sure they're strapped to the ground. Make sure they're strapped to the mobile home.
All right. Doesn't look like we have. Let me just check real quick. Make sure we don't have any other questions. I don't see any.
I have one that says, would this qualify for one? Eugene Blackshear
Okay.
Was asking about the 1.5 times ACV. Would this qualify for 1.5? No, not in this regard, because I only had $20,000 or $22,000 of damage, and it has to be over 50% damage in order to qualify for that 1.5. If it's the adjuster's opinion that it is a total loss, that's when you apply that 1.5.
All right,
so
wonderful.
If you think it's definitely a total loss, then it's your call as the adjuster to make that call.
All right. Well, this concludes our webinar. I just want to thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule to attend.